This episode is about getting more than you bargained for and enjoying it. And thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this episode. I used to self-sabotage when I got in over my head, and I credit therapy for helping me cope with unforeseen stress and obstacles. Finding a therapist can be tricky, but BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that eliminates the time-consuming pain in the neck search for a therapist with a sign-up process that simply asks you straightforward questions that you answer online. Within 24 to 48 hours in most cases, BetterHelp connects you to a licensed therapist appropriate to your needs. I've found that a therapist is basically a professional listener with no agenda but to help you. BetterHelp is a very straightforward, comfortable, and convenient place for therapy. You can do your sessions through messaging, voice, or video, and change your therapist if you want. Use this URL for 10% off your first month of therapy, and the link is in the description. Thank you, BetterHelp. This looks brand new. They just put that there. They fixed these. These used to be broken.
This?
Ooh, these are broken. So these are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and the axle is 1/2 inch. 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 of them are broken. This should be no problem.
Wrong!
Just get a 1 3/4 inch dowel, cut it into 1 3/4 inch lengths, drill a 9/16 hole in them. Ah, shit! Paint one side brown, one side white. Install, and we're done.
Am I gonna be the one that's gonna set them straight? Look at me, wrong!
Oh, man. Well, the Lord of Darkness, they say, is in the details. Satan, the devil. The devil is in the details. 2 details in particular. Detail 1. The dowel's gotta be 1 3/4 inch in diameter exactly. Too small, and the axle hole will bust the roller in half when we drill it. Too big, and it won't fit in the slot. 1 3/8. I need 1 3/4. Of course, Home Depot only sells dowels too small and too big. I don't want to drive around town looking for a 1 3/4 inch dowel. I was going to try spinning the dowel in a drill and then using these things with a grinder to grind it down to the desired diameter. But I'm going to use a hole saw instead. So I'll just mill down the 2 inch. No problem. Oh, you fucker. I gotta buy a drill press and I don't want to buy a drill press. And detail number 2. The axle hole must be square and centered. If not, when the roller spins, it will get stuck in the slot and possibly pinch little kid fingers. And all this stuff. Drill press, just said I'd never buy. I'm underplaying the Home Depot trip. It's always 2 hours and it's always 2 visits. It's always 4 hours. You need the drill press and the drill press vise to drill the hole straight and centered. You need the miter saw. I didn't want to buy a miter saw. You need the miter saw to cut the rollers square so they sit square in the drill press vise so you can drill the axle hole square. It's just such a nightmare. So this was the process for cutting, milling, and drilling each roller. Miter saw 4-inch lengths of 2-inch diameter dowel. milled 2-inch lengths of the... There are so many tripwires with this project, so many little things. For instance, I had to build this little fence so that these dowels don't fall off the table while I'm drilling. Watch. Milled 2-inch lengths of the 2-inch diameter dowels to 1 3/4 inch diameter dowels. I gotta lower the bit each time to get that last 3/4 inch of milling. Bore a 9/16 inch hole for the axle. And before I could miter cut the milled dowel, I had to make this jig to hold the milled dowel square in the miter saw. So fasten the dowel into the jig, then miter cut the 1 3/4 inch diameter dowel into 1 3/4 inch lengths. Sand, paint, seal. Times 11. 10 to replace the broken ones, and 1 spare. I still gotta install these things at the playground. Please, dear God, let them fit. I put 3 weeks and over $500 into this project. The problem isn't that it's too much time or too much money. Maybe the problem is that it's too much fun. Maybe there's no problem at all. Maybe in the end, this is what I really want to do with my life. Walk the earth, like Caine in Kung Fu, but fix things instead of Kung Fu fight. Maybe that's what I'm gonna do. The most boring toy on the playground.
I can barely even tell which is which.
This week on the Patreon, archival videos with director's commentary on my Patreon right there. The link is right there.